I appreciate y'all inviting me here. Ken Marsh invited me, and he first said, you know, I'd like for you to come and do a talk now that Pal has died. What does the future hold for Pals?
It sounds like Ken.
Yeah. So I said, how about if I give a general overview and kind of include that in the topic? But he actually really intrigued me by the question that he asked first about talking about, well, what does the future hold for Pals now that Pal has died? And I thought, well, that shows how much unknown there really is in the community about what's going on at Pals in reality and how Pals approaches things for anybody to even ask that question. So, as I said, I came in 1981. The very first meeting I had with Pal, he said, you know, I'd built this to 4 stores, we've contracted back to 2. I'm looking for the future and succession of Pals and what we're doing. That's what Pal was working on at age 51 in 1981. And so all along was the idea, the next generation coming along. And so as we moved forward working together, we worked very closely together through the 80s, the early part of the 90s, but actually by 1998, y'all have not seen a company that has any touch of Pal since 1998. He had no operational input. He had no say-so. He made no decisions of anything. He says, I'm getting the company to this point now. I'm going to watch on the side, and if I need to take you aside and coach you a little bit, but y'all are looking at a company that had transitioned from Pal, and Pal having any direction, any influence on the company, that was 25 years ago. So the Pals that most everybody recognizes today is a non-Pal touched entity. He was still the face of the company, he's still the spokesperson, but he didn't do the strategic planning, he didn't do the hiring, he didn't do the menu selection, he didn't do any of those things. And that's because he knew how important it was to get succession right. Let's do this way ahead of time, and let's really plan this thing out and align it to where it's just going to keep on going. And actually, the other reason it intrigued me is because we're 3 years into the next succession at Pals. And hopefully y'all are still not noticing the fact that there was Pal to Tom to Adam, and that's been going on right under everybody's nose. And I don't think people realize that fact is going on, and we kind of take pride in that because that means we're hopefully doing it seamlessly, where nobody has any indication that leadership, management, core strategic thinking, the strategies we're following have all moved on to new, younger leaders. So the youngest leader, Adam, that's actually driving that now is 36 years old. So we're in this process of trying to make sure it's business as usual with Pal. So Pal founded Pals in 1956 with the idea that let's sell really good food really, really fast. So great food in a flash. And you know, his little mantra in 56 was sudden service. And we've stuck to that. And we've also stuck to the idea of keep everything really simple so that we can manage it. So as we look out across our competition, one of the things that we think is the biggest mistake they make is they over-complexize, or add too much complexity, I guess would be a better way to say it, to their systems and their menus and everything. And so they go from being known and great at one or a few things to being mediocre at several things to now saying, oh golly, business is suffering, let's add more services, more products, and they end up being piss poor at a lot of things. And then they wonder whatever happened to our great business. So at Pals, we try to, and moving out in the future, one of the things we try to indoctrinate to all levels of leadership is the idea that we want to keep things simple. We want to be very conservative. So at Pals, you're looking at a debt-free organization. We might loan money to ourselves from one internal entity to another, but we don't use outside money, haven't used outside money in decades. We build stores when we have leaders. Again, we see a lot of businesses moving forward, and their idea is, boy, if I could just get the location, or if I could just go out and get a loan, get the money, And then after they kind of line some of those ducks up, then they start worrying, well, who's going to run this new idea, this new concept I've got set up? And they kind of put what we think is the cart in front of the horse. So we think there's always going to be a location to build in. There's always going to be money available to build with. What you have to have is a true leader who deserves the operation. So we're always working 4 years ahead on our leadership development pipeline, setting up who's going to be the next leaders at PALS. And so we have a really well thought out and well designed process. And what we're looking for and what the future's holding at PALS is for us to identify and develop these leaders. And as we get larger, we develop a larger group of them, but to the point of where they're a world-class leader and we're going to lose them unless we give them a location. So we let having the right world-class leader be in place push us to growth instead of all those other factors. Because if we have the right leaders in place, we feel like that secures our future better than anything, because we know who these people are, we've trained them, we have passed along the cultural aspects of PALS to where those aspects won't get lost. Looking out across the audience, I think several of us have some age on us, and I think that you can think about an organization that you said, we used to be, wow, we used to be really it. And over time, you can look back at it now and you probably say, and that organization's lost its way somehow. It's not as effective, it's not as efficient, it's not really honed in and focused on the right goals anymore. And a lot of that is because people miss their opportunity of getting in front of things and making sure that cultural understanding gets passed off first and foremost in the development of leaders, instead of taking them up and going, there you are, I taught you a few technical things, good luck. And we feel like that's how things get lost. So sometimes I'll be talking to a group and they'll say, what keeps you awake at night? The only thing that's ever kept me awake at night is me worrying about how do we do a better job at passing off the culture of PALS. Simplified menus, extensive training, limited menus that are really focused in on a flavor profile that the people like, fast service, accurate service, not getting too big for our britches, not thinking that we can go out here and build 100 stores next year. And then we would add so much complexity and aggravation that we would lose our way and probably lose our way in passing along the cultural aspects to the new leaders. So we're trying to stay really honed in. And we feel like some of that's really working for us. If you look across the fast food environment, and metrics we use in the fast food, one of the things to do is annual unit volume, average annual unit volume. So how much does one of your restaurants on average bring in per year? We have consistently for the past 25 years been in the top 5 in the world of fast food restaurants, annual volume per year per location. The metric we're real pleased of is how much retail sales do you bring in per square foot of space that you allocate for production. So McDonald's, in a rounded number, brings in about $1,500 per square foot of allocated space. Chick-fil-A, who has the highest average unit volumes in the world for a quick service restaurant chain, brings in just under $2,000, about $1,980. PALS brings in $3,460 per square foot. So there's nobody touches us on efficiency of space use for sales produced. Other things that that we stick to, part of our culture, is we are who we are, and we're going to build our trade dress, and we're not going to deviate from that. Our kind of funny buildings with the food art on it, the teal blue color. As you know, I went through one process. Said, well, we'll give us a try fighting with Johnson City on the tan PALS. Still to this day, we get about 60 to 70 email complaints every month about the color of that PALS. And so Johnson City just kind of got a sore spot with us that they didn't want that. So I bought the lot, made the deal. They saw that I was going to go ahead with it. They forced me to put brick food art on that building. So I had to commission a person in Wisconsin, and every one of those bricks are molded and specially baked to build that food art. Had to have it built in Wisconsin, shipped into here, put on the building. But as that went along, we got all that started, and they saw that we weren't going to back down. Johnson City came to me and said, if you'll turn it around and face the food art to Food City, we'll let you be teal and put your normal fiberglass food art up there. I said, no, it's too late for that, boys. We're going to build what we're going to build. The food's going to be out there for everybody to see. And I don't know if you remember, but since they were so nice about accommodating us on having our teal building and the normal food art, that we maintained the billboard right across from the mall in Johnson City. I don't know if y'all remember, but I put a three-dimensional full-color PALS up there and kept it up there for 4 years to make sure that Johnson City got to see the blue teal building as frequently as they wanted it. But we're looking at situations of where to build, and we're going to continue to build, but we're going to build our trade dress. We're very interested in continuing to build in East Tennessee. We get lots of questions about when are you going to come to Knoxville. We've been real interested. We got 3 commercial realtors trying to figure out how to help us crack the Knoxville market. But we don't lease land, we buy, because rents and leases go up, mortgages go away. So we want to control our destiny, but in Knoxville, the price of the land is more than it takes us to buy the land and build the building and put the equipment in it here. So I can't really figure that out, but we're trying to crack that. We've kind of put a hold on building in Virginia. We found Virginia to be a very, 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 very difficult state to deal with. We don't understand why anybody lives in Virginia. We don't understand why anybody works in Virginia, why anybody builds a business in Virginia. But with state income tax and different regulations they have up there, return on investment already is hurting. And then they put all types of other stumbling blocks in your way. We built PALS 30 in Abington after the little fight, and as you know, I kind of stood my ground about, no, I'm not doing a red brick building in Abington just because it's Abington. It's teal or nothing. And they finally saw the way. They're real happy with us now, especially with the tax revenue that's coming in for them. And the fact that they do a lot of things like mills taxes in the different cities. Bristol's at an insane level now. So the tax rate on a mill in Bristol, Virginia is going to over 15%. But as soon as we built that building, the state of Virginia attacked us again. So we had to go through all this rigmarole. We think we've got it quietened down. They say, well, now come back and build in Virginia. I tell them, I don't trust you. I fought this fight with you every time we build in Virginia, and you just like you want to attack and stick your claws into us, and we don't trust you anymore, so we're not going to do that. But we are looking to build in North Carolina, East Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky. So that's where we're focused on. We'd like to finish out the local markets. In the local markets, we think that there's a few sleeper spots that nobody's really thinking about, but all of our regression models show that it'll have real strong sales. So Bristol, Tennessee could hold another store. Kingsport can hold another store, although there's already 7 in Kingsport. Greenville on the Asheville Highway side could hold another store. Morristown could hold another store. So we're fairly limited on how much growth we've got in the immediate market. So we are going to have to figure out how to crack Asheville, Knoxville, somewhere, and then become committed to that market. When we go into a market, we go like you're fighting war. A lot of people go in and they say, well, let's go and test the water, stick our toe in, see how cold it is, decide whether we're going to jump in. We think, no, you have to be committed to go into a new market. We'd like to have 4 or 5 lots already bought and realize we've got to get enough assets on the ground to where people see our logos, see our buildings every day, have some experience with us if we're going to get into a new market and win market share in those markets. So we are committed to that. We are aggressively working, looking for ways to crack these markets and figure them out the correct way. We are continuing to develop new leaders. So in our leadership development pipeline, we currently have 8 people at various stages of development in the pipeline, doing well. We've reached an age where we have several of the owner-operators retiring. This year there's 2 retiring. And again, hopefully the customer's experience is that that's seamless. You all don't realize that the key leader of the location has retired and moved on. because we've passed off the cultural understanding and how important it is to adhere to that cultural understanding, and then to drive the training behind that for the technical aspects and link the two, the culture and the training up so the customer's experience is always good. Because at PALS, you've probably heard before, our mission is to delight customers in a way that creates loyalty. And we truly try to make sure that that's what we're focused on at PALS. And we try to get everybody inside of PALS, everybody working for us, whether they're on the clock or off the clock, to understand culturally that that's so important, that if a customer's talking to you after work, in the grocery store, you know, at some other retail environment, they see you at the park, that you can talk to them about PALS and actually solve problems or make commitments for PALS. So if they say, you know, I was at a location and they got my order wrong. I wanted a Raider Coke and they gave me a Diet Coke. Well, I'm sorry about that. Here, let me give you a coupon. We're going to replace your meal. And we want all 1,400 plus employees at PALS doing that. So basically, the message of what's next for PALS, what's going on at PALS, is just business as usual. Conservative, we're not going to take on a lot of debt. We're going to focus on building leaders first. When we have the right leaders, we'll build up more locations. We're looking at markets that make sense, where there's not too much hassle to build in it. They'll let us build our trade dress. We look for financial returns that make sense. We firmly believe that if you open a business, what I was taught in the 1970s is if you open a restaurant, especially in the quick service restaurant, that you need to be able to pay off the entire cost of that investment in 5 years, or else you're a failure. So that's our goal. And we watch a lot of people out here doing deals that we know that there's no way some major chains are going to pay it off in 15 or 20 years, and we just don't understand how it's going to be sustainable. So again, we think that long term we're setting ourselves up for the most likely scenario of achieving success continuously out into the future. So that's basically a brief update of what's going on with PALS.